morning, everyone. I cannot hear any one of you. Good morning, everyone. Great. My name is 𝗘𝗱𝗶𝗁, and on behalf of Adobe, 𝗓𝗏 𝗥𝗲𝗊𝗏, 𝗬𝗏, Inspiring, and UBS forums, I welcome you all for our 10th edition Future of Learning Development Summit and Awards. First of all, thank you so much, all of you, for sparing your time today and joining us for this session. Today, we are all here for a purpose of learning, knowledge sharing, and networking with our peers. So let's kickstart our day by laying down the foundation, and for which I would request a few of you to please come ahead, introduce yourself, and share your learning expectations from this event. And also make a note of that on this whiteboard. We are doing this so that we can have a fruitful day, and we'll be requesting all our speakers to please ensure they cover all these pointers during their session today. So I would request few of you to please volunteer, come forward, and make a note of your learning expectation from the event today. Great, please give her a huge round of applause.
Good morning. I'm Supriya and I head the HR for 𝗘𝗱𝗶𝗁 Digital Center. 𝗘𝗱𝗶𝗁 is a global organization into sustainability, headquartered in the US. And what we have in Bangalore is a digital center, which is going to be the IT hub for global 𝗘𝗱𝗁, which is in 170 countries. I'm Supriya and I have Mansoor, my colleague, with me, who heads L&D for 𝗘𝗱𝗁 Digital Center. My expectation for today is, thanks to COVID, we see a lot of behavioral changes in employees in terms of right from bringing them to work, back to work, office, collaboration, things like that. And somewhere I see that the learning culture is going to become a challenge, especially on a virtual mode. So how do we address that? How do we make it? Disclaimer here, in my experience of 20 years of HR, it's not very easy to drive people into soft skills training, especially, right? It's a little more easier to drive them to take technical trainings because that's like upskilling, and somewhere there is an ROI on that. But in terms of a soft skills training, it's a little harder to drive them. And with the hybrid model, I feel it's going to get a little more challenging. So how do we make it interesting? How do we bring in that learning culture into the organizations, different frameworks, techniques? So that's my expectation for today.
Great, thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, sir, please come forward and introduce yourself.
Very good morning to all of you. I come from 𝗕𝗏𝗄 Motor, 𝗕𝗏𝗄 Institute for Quality and Leadership, which is the corporate university of 𝗕𝗏𝗄 Motor, which is a global automotive giant. And I head an academy at 𝗕𝗏𝗄 Institute for Quality and Leadership. So today my expectation is, we have few challenges, how to get the collective intelligence in place, cultural capability. I'm just looking at, are there, some approaches other companies are doing towards such areas?
Yes, sir.
Hi everyone, my name is 𝗘𝗱𝗶𝗁 and I represent Philips Education. We are a US-based organization with a big setup in India. So my question here is for the people today, because it's, as it says, future of L&D, and if we peep into future, there is a recession which is probably predicted, and L&D for most organization being a discretionary expense. How do we make sure that there is a relevance of L&D? At the same time, there is better value for people around who we are responsible to train and provide the development for. So that will be something which I would definitely look forward to learning from each one of you. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll take 1, 2 more. No expectations for the day? Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nisha. I'm from Siemens Healthcare. My expectation or what I look forward from this session today is, one, in the current environment where we are back to our offices to some extent, with moonlighting, with the quiet quitting, how do we use learning to be an effective strategy? How do we build an efficient learning culture within the organization? Two, I was looking forward to see how we can use a learning culture as an retention strategy for employees in this environment. So those would be my two expectations.
Great, thank you so much.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Charles Benedict, and I'm from 𝗓𝗗 Global Solutions, otherwise known as just simply as AGS. I manage global operations to a very large extent. What my expectations from this particular session is, I'm very curious about the LXP and the metaverse that's coming in. So if there's some information on that, that would be just fantastic to hear out. If someone is involved in that as well, that would be just really, really wonderful just to get a better insight of that. So that's just one of my expectations here.
So much. Thank you so much, all of you. And I would request all our speakers. Okay, and I would request all our speakers to please ensure and cover all these pointers during their session. Okay, with this, we will move towards our keynote speaker and the first speaker for the day. That would be Mr. Janardhan, who is Vice President and Chief Learning Officer at Tata Consultancy Services. Giving a brief introduction for Mr. Janardhan, he holds over 23 plus years of industry experience across retail, consumer goods and manufacturing. He is responsible for transforming TCS talent from recruits who are yet to join all the way to senior leadership on the full set of skills and traits needed in the Business 4.0 era across technology, domain, process, culture, language, behavior, business skills and leadership. He started his professional career with Tata Motors as an automotive engineer. Subsequently, with TCS, he has specialized in retail industry, big data and analytics, and has worked with several global enterprises in consulting, program management, client relationship, and delivery partnership roles. With this, please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. That long of an introduction actually makes you wonder, is that much experience an asset or a liability in today's world? I introspect on that quite a lot nowadays. Great to be here with this august audience. In fact, I should say thrilled to be here. It's indeed my first in-person industry event of this kind since the pandemic. And so it's really great to be in person, network with all of you here. It's a very pertinent topic, particularly since there has been immense amount of innovation, disruption, pivoting that has happened in the last couple of years, and even prior to that in the last 3-4 years. You take gamification, it's done quite well in learning. You take the number of edtech startups just in India, over 4,000. You take LMSs transforming into LXPs, and one of my colleagues said about metaverse into learning. You take data and the role it has played in learning, recommendations, learner pattern analysis. Tons of things that have already happened in the industry in the last 3 years. What more? Is this the kind of thing that we should continue looking forward to? Or is there something different that we should think about? Is what I'm going to introspect a little today. And what I'm going to talk about is advanced disclaimer, very different from what's written on those notes. I'm going to look at this in a different angle. I'm going to look at it from a philosophical angle, from the angle of mindset and culture. So in the last few years, the L&D organization has really morphed itself quite well. We all know. At some point of time, an L&D organization used to be the service provider of courses, of certifications, of training programs, the procurer of training services, the people who used to curate what skills are needed for the organization, monitor what capability building is happening, and then keep pushing the boundaries of capability building, measure ourselves through competencies, learning hours, and so on. The world has moved phenomenally since then. And if I look at the next 3 years and what our purpose as an entire profession needs to be, I see that all of these terms, roles, skills, locations, are gradually becoming more the means to the end. And the end is the purpose that we drive for the organization. And the interesting thing about these purposes is these purposes are very consistent, whether you look at it from an organization view or you look at it from an associate view. So our purpose, for instance, has to be and has been to drive the culture of learning, unlearning, relearning, getting out of comfort zone, and making sure that this is done in a global manner, in an inclusive manner, for people who are from back office profession, as much as people who are business advisories or investment bankers. That is one example. A purpose is to make sure that in this age of disruption, Business 4.0, every person right from the first day of his or her career has a growth and transformation and a disruption mindset, apart from having a cost and efficiency mindset also. Both of these are hand in hand, not different from each other, and work in parallel, just like our left brain, right brain. Our purpose has to be that learning organization actually contributes directly and in quantitative terms and in attributable terms to business growth, to revenue, to margin, and to demonstrate that and then grab the seat at the table. Our purpose has to be, from associate point of view, to make sure that every associate sees that the organization is pushing them not just to learn because they have to learn, because it's an organization culture, because it's our DNA. As one of our colleagues said just a few moments ago, it's really difficult to push people into soft skills. Making them see the explicit connection between what I learn, how I perform at work, and how it contributes to my actual compensation, rewards, career growth in a very transparent manner, objective manner, democratic manner is a purpose of our organization. And finally, with future workplace, another colleague talked about metaverse. People talk about talent cloud. Our profession has to start taking the onus of describing, defining, and then helping the organization adopt to that. So our purpose in many ways is larger than just L&D, because we are critical components of HR and more so of the entire business itself. So today I'm going to take 3 examples and then talk purely about the approach and mindset, not so much about technology or experience and so on. There will be elements of that, and through the day then you will see each one of our esteemed speakers with a wealth of knowledge coming and delving into those topics in a lot more detail. So my first example is about data and technology. We all know it takes a very, very huge amount of effort for an organization, and particularly large and diverse organizations, to really put the foundation of what a talent data is. And a lot of us talk about Employee 360 and so on. We have been at it in our company for years, and there is still so many more miles to go. There is associate core skill data, their role, their location, their aspiration, their achievements, their recognitions, their rewards, the jobs that will fit them best. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens of data elements, and maintaining and upgrading that quality itself is a huge task. But beyond that, that itself is a marathon effort. And what I have seen is that it takes actually an Ironman triathlon to make that data and that technology work for you. And what is that triathlon? It's always just one thing. It's change management, change management, change management. You take any of these data, innovation, technology-driven disruptions that have been happening. Most of the first and second horizons are already there, and we are all using it. We are setting up hackathons, we are running it, we are applying AI and neuroscience to drive psychometric analysis, traits analysis. We are using AI, computer vision, video analytics to drive power articulation. But I'm going to talk a little more about what it takes to do that last horizon. The last horizon is entirely about having the mindset change to work with data and technology and drive that mindset change in the associate as much as in our management. Take AI, for example. With increasing use of AI comes the trust factor. How biased is the data? Has employee consent been taken? Was employee consent taken for this specific purpose? If you're expanding that analysis and adding data elements, how are you sure that there is proof that that additional algorithm, that incremental algorithm really works for you? So there is immense amount of research, policy making, engineering work, and transparency related work that is happening over there. We as professionals in using AI and technology in L&D have an immense responsibility to bring that to the extent that people can trust AI by default rather than suspect it upfront. That's a huge onus on us. Take anticipatory aspirations. Associates today express their aspirations explicitly. This is the role I want to become. I want to become an agile coach. I want to become a product owner. I want to become a healthcare specialist, a clinical trials product owner, and so on. Amazon does anticipatory shipping. Isn't it our onus now to start thinking about what our organization needs? What should associates' aspirations be? What's their background? And then trigger and create those aspirations in them. That is anticipatory aspiration. AI cobots, we use them already in our company to some extent. We've started experimenting with it. How AI can help engineers do programming by sitting together with AI and AI helping you actually write the code. But you have to push the boundaries of that. What does it mean to really bring machines large scale into all our sectors as talent that is working just alongside of us, and even going to the extent that machine itself can now be considered as talent. We are all using Alexa. What does Alexa have? Skills. What do we build with Alexa? Skills. So how do we as talent professionals start looking machines as talent and build the skills that is needed for machines to help and work with us better? This is the kind of mind change that is really needed now, because technology explorations and new innovations and new tools will keep coming in. But the change required at the topmost management to make sure that this is getting adopted at all levels, and then at the associate level to develop that trust is what the whole game is about. That's the triathlon we have to run. Change management for the organizational and its leaders, change management for associates, and change management for us as talent development professionals to look at these tools and drive their adoption in a totally different way, rather than just slap on additional technologies into the ecosystem. I remember a particular effort that we took in TCS called T factor. It is a measure, a quantitative measure, to give an individual a quantified score of what their T-shape looks like in comparison to an ideal T-shape profile. A T-shape profile is what the industry calls a good mix of several skills and then depth in one, or more at least. So when we started it off, it took a huge change management effort, about 9 months to roll out the first algorithm and then the computation and explain to all individuals. And then we saw very soon that it had to scale up to 400,000, 500,000 people, and it had to scale up to all kinds of technologies in future. And so we undertook another mammoth effort to upgrade that algorithm and spent about 9 months doing it. And it took another 9 months actually to roll that change out and do these cascades, hundreds and hundreds of town halls and umpteen number of blogs and sessions. I myself wrote about a dozen blogs on that subject over a period of 3 months. The amount of change management was, the effort was much, much more than the effort that it actually took to develop the algorithm itself. And that provided an unparalleled learning on what it takes to do this change management at multiple levels within the organization. And that we are change agents. 60% of my work is organizational change management. And that's a culture that needs to start from the bottom in this profession. My second example is gamification. All of us talk about gamification mostly in terms of learning experiences. We as TD professionals now have the responsibility of gamifying the entire ecosystem. Because work is play, play is work, there isn't much differentiation anymore. And particularly with Talent Cloud, with free agents playing the role of specialists in the economy, it's even more important. And I'll come to that also in a little more detail at the end. So what if we could gamify the entire ecosystem of talent itself? So at the first level, which is initiate, it's where you bring the learner into the ecosystem and you make sure they are engaged. And here's where typically a lot of the things that we do, we gamify, we put games onto learning, we create leaderboards, we create miles, and then we give a lot of points to people. But that's just the start. What if we could go to the next level and then also bring in competition amongst learners to make sure that they see a dashboard of themselves, they see how they compare with others, they are part of global hackathons, they play games for technical learning, for domain learning, and so on, going beyond the brain training kind of games that the industry has. We do that quite a lot also. Where we can push the boundaries is in the top two. Extend, which is start driving the adoption of some of these tools deeper, AI, neuroscience, intelligent and adaptive group simulations, contest-based hiring, now extending to hiring as well. TCS runs a very global competitive hiring event called 𝗘𝗱𝗶𝗁, which is also a Guinness record holder, where we bring in people with fantastic programming knowledge democratically across the whole world, gamify their entire experience of engaging with TCS, and then hire a bunch from them. And the last stage is bonding itself. How we can create a framework where contributors to learning, who are SMEs from various parts of the organization, see some kind of a laddered mechanism, which is similar to like an airline frequent flyer program, and participate in it in a way that they get credit for every contribution that they make, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and so on, where learners are also part of the same framework, where they go through a learning process, they accumulate credentials, they go through different tiers, they are measured back on their contribution, they are measured back based on their contribution to business, and we measure business also through a quadrant of talent development on one axis and talent deployment on another axis, and see where they fall and compare with each other and compete to get to the top right quadrant. So these are the kinds of things that really take an L&D organization to beyond its traditional role of learning services and then becoming a key player in the HR ecosystem and business ecosystem of the company itself. My third example is that of Talent Cloud, a subject that is very popularly spoken about nowadays, lots of articles about it. As I see it in the HR and TD community, there are three key things which are going to happen. Number one, capabilities will become the key differentiator of one person versus another, rather than things like what's the role, skill, even experience, credentials, certifications. There are multiple implications of that. For instance, age, gender, location, time zone become irrelevant. The definition of work has to become more granular, more specific, more time-bound. The definition of done has to become better, because now you're operating with some people who are your employees and a majority who are people who are possibly not employees or employees in other groups contributing to your project, or people who are retainers, freelancers, or other kinds of free agents operating in the enterprise, only giving you part-time of their effort. 20% of the time I work with TCS, right? So for that, the definition of work, what they have to contribute in the next 8 hours, 16 hours, has to become very, very granular. Work contracts will become very flexible. Now you may have people who say that I want to work part-time, but not just part-time. My compensation and my benefits also, I want to customize it. Not just that, I want to be able to contribute all my effort into a bank. And then, like a bank accumulates my credits, at some point of time, I may have accumulated some extra credits and I may want to withdraw them. And at some point, I may want to contribute additional credits when I have more bandwidth. So they may want all those kinds of flexibility. Even with the last 2 years of pandemic, we have seen pets have assumed an important part of the family. So there are people today asking for how pet welfare can be part of the work contracts. I've actually had a person leave from my own team who really saw pet welfare for her to be much more important than her work contract with us, and as a result chose to have a different employer, because with our company, there was a need for her to keep coming back to office and meet the learners and so on. With the other firm, there wasn't any such need. So all that is happening as we speak around us. How we as individuals promote the belongingness for these people through our policies is what will drive. So HR L&D policies will also need to evolve significantly. Who owns that individual? If 20 people are working on a project, and 10 of them are not actually people who belong to you, they come from various parts of the organization. Tomorrow, when your project has the next upgrade and you want to see who are the people who will work on that upgrade, how will you choose? Will you have the ability to say that, hey, this is an individual I'm going to invest on for their capability development, and so I need to be owning that individual for 3 more years? You will not have the option of saying that. The supervisory model will change. You will not be the supervisor of the individual. There will be a federated set of 10 supervisors that an individual works with over a course of 3 years. Performance evaluation itself, the definition will change. What is learning performance? What is work performance? And we as professionals have to start introspecting and codifying what it means in this new world. Belongingness is going to be driven less by company policy, compensation, and a lot more through communities. Professionals who get together in context of a community like an SAP community, or a community of banking, fintech experts, or a community of supply chain professionals in an organization. And the belongingness they see in the community will be stronger than the belongingness that they see in an organizational construct. So we as talent development professionals also have the onus of running those communities, creating those communities, and fostering that belongingness in a gamified manner in that community itself. And finally, career, growth, these are going to get debated extensively in the next few years. As TD professionals, we talk a lot about progression to the next role, visibility to higher management, more responsibilities, higher challenges, and so on. Not sure if people will start looking at it that way. Visibility versus richness of work will be a very big aspect to debate about in the next few years. We don't have answers to all of that today. Individual performance and career progression will get redefined, and we as professionals have the onus of working with business to redefine it for the variety of different kinds of people who are going to be working with us. And in doing so, take less of an industry view, industry need view, and take more of the human view, of the mindset that is required to change, the approaches required, the emotional connect that is required in order to establish those policies. So these are 3 examples. I'm going to conclude by talking about what does it take for a talent development organization itself to remold its thinking in order to achieve all of this. For a long time, talent development has typically been a support function. From support function, we became a partner function. It is up to us now to define where do we go from there. Do we continue to follow business, or do we start mirroring business? Business has its verticals: manufacturing, life sciences, healthcare, insurance, and so on. We have verticals, we probably need to do more. Business has its global presence, we have global presence, we probably need to reach every nook and corner, every language, every ethnic group. Business has its teams, global teams, delivery teams, we have our delivery teams as well. Business has initiatives, business has finance, marketing, they have their own different kinds of skills. We need to build that too. But how do we accomplish this? By being HR and TD professionals. We can do better by actually starting to mirror that structure and that expertise within our teams as well. Why can talent development not have all kinds of technical professionals, all kinds of domain professionals, all kinds of leadership, business skills, sales professionals, all kinds of delivery leaders, portfolio leaders, program managers? We do that today in our company. My organization is a mirror of business, and so it has the onus of being one step ahead of business, of advising business. Hey, these are the market trends. Are you even preparing for it? These are the skills we need to build. It will take 6 months, so let's start now. So that is the kind of onus that we have of being one step ahead of business and mirroring business in order to be true advisors to them. My last point today, hence, concludes with what is the role of a CLO. For long, a CLO or a learning organization is, has been like a function. It's time we start thinking about ourselves as business heads, as CEOs, as CHROs, as change agents, and as Sherpas who have to guide those execs in what they have to do going forward. Our responsibility is much larger than TD, much larger than HR itself. It's time we start looking at our job as enterprise talent planning, training itself. It's time we started looking at us as, instead of procurers of services from various vendors, as orchestrators of an entire ecosystem which acts so seamlessly that the learner doesn't even know there are 40 vendors behind it. And finally, it's time for us to start building, creating, and becoming a major contributor to the enterprise brand itself, rather than being a beneficiary of an enterprise's reputation or a position. That is how I would conclude today's talk, and that dovetails very well into the subject that my next speaker is going to be talking about, my namesake, in fact, from Flipkart, about the role of L&D leaders. Thank you very much.